Hi, welcome back to the second installment of The Beautiful Mess of Homeschooling. This one, for today's episode, I want to talk to you about who can homeschool. I've heard a lot of times people have said, oh, I could never homeschool. I don't have the patience. And to that, I would say you don't have patience for what you're not in. So yes, you probably don't. I am not a particularly patient person. And just so you know, homeschooling will not be perfect. It won't be, but neither is public school, neither is private school. Nothing is perfect on this earth because we are flawed human beings and we have flawed human children who need training and love and care. So none of this is going to be perfect, but it can be very beautiful and it can be hard. So I'm not making any bones about the fact that there will be days that you will wish that you weren't doing this, but stay the course because it's really worth it, guys. It's so, it winds up being just such a beautiful thing. So who can do it? Anyone, with this caveat. Do you feel, so I'm a believer in Jesus. I consider myself a Christian. So that influences the way that I look at things. That influences the way that I live my life. So I felt the Lord calling me. I felt convicted. My husband and I both felt convicted that we should homeschool. We should teach our kids. So I covered that in the first episode. So with that in mind, then we begin to pursue how should we do that? Now, the wonderful thing about homeschool these days is that there's so much more support than there used to be. So when back, even just in the 80s or 90s, there was hardly any support. Now you can find so many groups that homeschool. There's what's called a co-op. There's also there are all kinds of things. There's communities, there's resources, there's curriculums, so many curriculums that it can be mind-numbing, just the number of homeschool curriculums that are out and available. The key here is to find one that fits your worldview. Now, what's a worldview, do you ask? Some people may not have thought of worldview. Worldview is how you look at the world, okay? The lens through which you view the world. So being a Christian, loving Jesus, I look at the world through the eyes of the Bible. And I want my children and my school, the way that I school my children, I want that to reflect the things that are important in the Bible. Like one might say, just a basic example would be the 10 Commandments. You may or may not have heard of the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments are some laws that God gave to a group of people in the earlier days of Christianity, teaching them how to have a society, how to have a productive, happy, good society. So things like don't kill, don't steal, don't covet, don't want something that belongs to someone else. Many, many useful, helpful things. So I'm digressing, but all that to say, that's my worldview. That's the way that I look at the world, the lens through which I view the world. And I want to teach and pass on those good values to my children. I want them to grow up with that lens as well, knowing that, hey, it's not okay to kill people, right? It's not okay to rob people. It's not okay to treat someone the way you would not want to be treated. So those are just some of the things. But back to who can homeschool. Guys, the reason why I say anyone can homeschool is this. As a parent, just because you don't, some people say, oh, you don't have an education degree, so therefore you're not qualified to homeschool. But here's the thing. You have been teaching your child from day one, right? As soon as you had your child, whether you birthed your child or whether you adopted your child, you have been teaching them. You've been teaching them how to eat, depending on how, if you adopted them, how early did you have them? come into your family? If you had them early, then you taught them how to eat, you taught them how to tie their shoes, you taught them how to speak, you've taught them how to fold their clothes. So you have been teaching them from day one. So teaching them from a book is really not very much different. It's just a next level of learning, of teaching. So that's that piece of things. So yes, I believe that anyone can homeschool. It doesn't take a rocket scientist. You don't have to be particularly intelligent. But what you do have to do is you have to have a desire to learn yourself. And you have to love your children. So it is also really helpful. I would encourage you to find a community. So for me, that community has been Classical Conversations. There are several communities, Classical Conversations communities around the country and even in the world. They're in different countries as well. But I found one early on, and it has been the greatest blessing for me. We go there. It's a great model because it's only one day a week that we meet together. And the rest of the time, I'm home with my children working on the things that I feel are important. And it is a complete curriculum. The Classical Conversations curriculum is a complete curriculum. So we can talk more about Classical Conversations later. That'll be its own episode. I am not particularly saying that if you homeschool, you should always do Classical Conversations. Classical Conversations has been a blessing to our family, and I love it. And I've been employed as an independent contractor with them for many, many years. As a director, a tutor, I've helped in various roles on my campus, but that does not mean that that's the only way to homeschool. So for sure, if you are somebody who prefers other things, then do it for sure. Because you're, the biggest piece of information that I want you to take away here is that God gave you your children, okay? And He gave your children to you. Did I say that the same way both times? I think I did. He gave you your children, and he gave your children you as a parent. That's what I'm trying to say. So He knew what He was doing. It was purposeful. It wasn't a mistake. So you have what you need, and He will give you, if He calls you to do homeschooling, if you feel a burden to homeschool, and then He will give you what you need to homeschool. Now, does that mean it's going to be easy? Absolutely not. That is not what I'm saying at all. There will be days that are really hard. And there will be days that it looks like a train wreck and you don't get everything done that you wanted to get done. And you'll feel like a failure. But that's a feeling, and feelings lie. Okay? So that doesn't mean you're a failure. It just means that you'll feel like a failure. So, but you don't always feel that way. I promise. Because there are days when they come out, they go around people and someone asks them a question, and when they get older, they like answer in this beautifully articulated response that you're like, oh, that was my kid. Wow. Okay. It is getting in. So I hope that's encouraging to you. Please let me know if you have specific questions about this. I'd be happy to answer them. So thank you so much for tuning in, for showing up and listening to this, and for your patience with me as I grow and learn how to YouTube. It's a new skill to develop. So thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to more chats with you. Have a good evening.